Father, I was just thinking, if you had joined the Carmelite, you was in a white friar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it says on
That's
here.
one of my examples of white fur.
white
There have been, yeah.
Okay.
But,
There's different branches of the
Carmelites.
Carmelites. I was interested in the discalced Carmelites.
And then there's the laity, which is all the baptized Catholics, their ministries in the church. And if you see in the pews here lately, there's that slip of paper where you can sign up for all the ministries that you would like to participate in. And there's quite a bit there that you could pick. So generally, there's something there for everybody's comfort level to what you like to do to be involved. I know for my son, like I make him pick 3 every year. What 3 are you doing this year, Brayden? You know, and it gets to be, it gets hairy sometimes, you know. And he's done a few, he's lectured, now he decides he's not really like that. He's done children's liturgy, and, you know, assistant. But I want him to see the different things and try it. So, you know, I think there's something on there for everybody to look at. I think that was all. I didn't include anything about the parish council. It's an advisory group made up in the parish. We changed how we do that. Now people are nominated, and then I believe their names are put in a hat if they accept their nomination.
Chosen by lot, yes.
Chosen by lot. Is that a guidelines for that? Is that set down from the diocese, or the parish
No,
makes the
there's
guidelines?
different ways. It was determined by the parish council that we would begin to do it that way, because if you leave it to a popular vote, every time you wind up with the same people. You end up,
Right.
you run the
Yes.
danger of it being a popularity contest. And you kind of wind up with rounding up the usual suspects,
Yes.
as it were. So,
You have a nomination and so like, I nominate Donna, but she doesn't want to after she's been in for 1 or 2 terms, whatever it is.
we have a term limit.
Okay.
Shortly after I came here, we went through the whole finance committee and parish council and revised things a bit. And in the process, we set it all out. So in other words, we have a bylaws. This is how this thing will operate. This is how it's going to work. And we got to document that all down in black and white.
So let's say you nominate Donna, they call her and ask her, does she accept the nomination? So she might decline it.
If her name comes out of the pot, hey Donna, would you like to serve on the parish pastoral council? I'll probably explain a little bit about what that is. She'd say, yeah, your name.
So, who takes care of St. Vincent de Paul? Is that the council?
No.
Or that is several dioceses, so it,
Parachute.
parishes, I mean, yeah.
Yes, St. Vincent de Paul, of course, is part of the church, but it doesn't really fall under charge of any parish per se. They kind of operate it's all over the world. And it operates kind of independently. In my last assignment, for example, there was a point where we begun St. Vincent de Paul. It wasn't a store. It was what they call I don't know the word.
Distribution center.
No. Anyway, whatever they call it. It's really the heart of the work of the St. Vincent de Paul Society is you always do it in pairs. And people who call in wanting help, you go to them. You go to their house or wherever it is they live. And you talk to them and you try to get an understanding. What really is this person's situation in life? They might be asking for money, but their need might be something far different.
And that applies to the one over here.
I don't know. I don't think they do that. No. A lot of places, they want to start a store. But in reality, St. Vincent de Paul really only has stores in order to have funds to support the ministry of going out That's really the heart of St. Vincent de Paul, is going out to the people's houses.
I didn't know they did that much here, but I know they have a few food distribution, you know, out here.
I'm not saying they don't do any good.
Yeah.
That's not really the heart and soul of what St. Vincent de Paul
But
is about.
who actually does the day-to-day? I know you have volunteers that go out there.
Don't they have people from each, there used to be people from each
People from
parish.
each one.
Yeah.
Because, like you see in our bulletin where we're asked for a certain day,
Yeah.
because that's ours. And I know that St. Peter's has a day because Jamie's grandma does it.
So-
Gail.
Kathy I think what you want to know is who
I think
Kathy Thomas,
And I think
just
it's-
because of the store.
Is the head of it, right?
Is that because it's the St. Anne's Religious Articles
That's over
store? Or is it because she donated the space?
Stories,
I don't
It
know.
could be
It's
both.
here.
I think it's a combination of both. Yeah.
But they do, to my knowledge, they don't go into the homes, but you go there to apply on Tuesday.
That's what
You
a
have
lot
to
of them
fill out
do.
an
Yeah.
application for assistance. But I think just because of where it is, Kathy Thomas
I
is
do
in
know
charge.
they work with the school system, with our family resource centers, that we can contact them with names, and they may help give us supplies, and then we do make home visits with it if we know someone, with the support of St. Vincent de Paul. I do believe they do that.
So I
With
guess
the
each
school system.
volunteer just knows what to do, right? Just what their job is and.
I would-
Go out there and put you to work.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
sure
I think we should
someone,
work.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, there's somebody there who can direct you, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, I mean, somebody has to do the nuts and bolts of the thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's the.
It's probably her.
I would say it's Kathy.
Yes.
Somebody has to keep some books, for example. So,
Yeah.
right.
Any questions about any other roads you may have heard of in the church, things you may have heard, anything that you read in here?
The only thing that I can add, Father said they made some changes here, but that's not the same for every parish.
Right.
Say, if you go out to St. Peter's, they may do it differently. So,
What do you mean, Jane?
On the parish council or whatever, you know.
And we may have our own bylaws and guidelines, governing bodies that we follow here, but some of them is choices that each parish could set with the.
Well, the diocese too puts out guidelines that comes from the bishop. There's a policy manual in there about that thick, covering all aspects of parish life. So, for example, it is part of the diocesan policy, you must have a parish council. And it can only be dissolved but with the permission of the bishop. And if he grants it, then you must reconstitute it within a year. So for that, and the bishop can do that. It's mandated by him and frankly by canon law, universal canon law of the church. You must have a finance committee. You must. Not optional. And that is, well, there's a lot of reasons for it. It's partly a safeguard that no one person, especially the pastor, has knowledge and control of the purse strings. So there's a lot of,
Yeah, and like what I can relate to, there is a diocesan school handbook that's for the whole diocese. But then each school also has their own handbook, but they follow the overall one, but then they hold those standards, but then they can be more specific in their own. But yet that is sent in and it's approved by the superintendent of schools and so forth for the diocese and so forth. So that's kind of how,
same way in the parish.
yeah. So that, or chain of command like the military, each person answers up to the next one, and there it goes. So,
But at the same time, it's not like, I mean, it depends somewhat on the individual, of course, but it's not like the bishop is looking over our shoulder,
yeah.
you know, every little thing.
Yeah, wouldn't have time to do that.
But there are certain things that are in place. So for example, anything in the parish that is more than $5,000, it's a diocesan policy. You gotta get written permission from the bishop. And again, that's a safeguard. So, I mean, it's not complicated, it's pretty simple, but
Because,
you can't do that.
yeah, because building the new school, they were involved from the very beginning.
Oh,
They
yeah.
had to sign
Oh,
off,
yeah.
because we are also a business, and they are liable for business that we do.
Right. Well, yeah, and, so it's been considered to add on to this parish hall. It's kind of on the shelf right now, I think. But day comes when if and when we decide to do that, we certainly have to have the permission of the diocese to do it. You gotta have your plans and your financing lined up, and then you go before a diocesan building committee, and they do their thing, and then it goes before what's called the priest's council, and ultimately it's the bishop that approves or not, but he generally goes along with the priest's council.
Seems like a pretty long process.
Can be.
Somewhat,
Yeah.
but building something is a long process.
It makes you see
Anyway.
the business side, I think, of it, and you have to see,
Yeah, that is all part of the reality of parish life.
I just figure if the parish had the money, like kind of like the elevator or whatever, we put in, just figure if you have the money, you can do whatever you want.
Well, even like us, so like CGB is a big company.
Yeah.
We have like 100 locations. Like when we want to put in those new bins out there, we have to like go, we have like a region, so it has to go through the region. And then and we have to approve it. And then it has to go up through corporate, and like the corporate finance, like this, it also go up to like the CFO, and then they all have to approve it. So I mean, it's just like any large.
There's always
business.
a process.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the buck has to stop somewhere.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's the bishop, of course. He's ultimately responsible for all the affairs of the diocese. No other bishop, other than the Pope, can tell him what to do. Not a cardinal, not an archbishop, no one. They have no authority to go into the diocese of another bishop and tell him what to do or how to run the affairs of his diocese. Only the Pope. All the bishops of the world report straight to the Pope.
Yeah.
And so she mentioned that every 5 years, each bishop in the world meets with the Pope. Now, sometimes it's not one-on-one, sometimes he does it as a group. It's called ad liminem visit. And let me tell you, before they go on that visit, there's a preparation. They have to gather all this information and this big report together and forward it to the Vatican before the bishop ever makes the actual
Like an
visit.
audit.
Mhm.
Like an audit.
Yeah.
Kind of.
like a school accreditation.
Yeah.
You've been on that one, Donna?
But you know, I've heard Bishop McRae and I've heard Bishop Medley say, that when they go for their ad limina visit, that the Pope knows his stuff. I mean, he knows the specifics of each diocese and say, well, what about such and such? I mean, he's because he's got that report, and he knows.
I thought it was interesting. Each piece of land is in the bishop's name.
Oh, really?
It's not in, like, the property here. I don't know which bishop it would have been named in
Pass
the
to his
property.
successors, I'm sure.
Pardon me?
It would pass to his successors anyway, I'm
Yes,
So
sure.
is it put in his personal name, like with his name, or is it just put in the name of the bishop of the Diocese of Owensboro?
It's put in his name, but it really resides in the office of the bishop,
Bishop,
so that
okay.
it passes to his
Yeah.
successors.
But I thought that was interesting. When,
Yeah.
say, St. Agnes wanted to buy property next door here, and we had the money and, Father sees that we're gonna buy it, it doesn't go in Father's name, or St.
No.
Agnes's name.
And Father doesn't make the final decision.
Well,
You know, he'll be back property all over you in town.
yeah, but it does not
He's the one that said
go
you
in
can do
Father
it.
Randy's name, it goes.
No,
it
no.
would go in
No.
Bishop